I kind of fell out of love with boxing. I hated it. I remember getting on the train sometimes on the way up to Sheffield, and I'd generally cry on the way up, and I'd look at the platform opposite and think I could jump on that and I'd be back in, London, St Pancras in no time. It wasn't until my auntie got terminally ill with cancer that she said to me, Ellie, like, I want to get baptised and I'd love for you to do it with me, and it was one of the best days of my life.
Hello and welcome back to One-on-One Boxing with me, your host, Rob Tebbutt. Just like to remind everybody to please like, comment and subscribe. Turn your notifications on for more boxing content. Now that's out of the way, we are back for another episode of One-on-One with, and I am joined by probably Britain's latest world champion, the IBF Super Bantamweight Queen of the World, Ellie Scotney. Ellie, thanks very much for coming down here to ID Studios. Good to have you.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have me. Queen of Catford has been updated to Queen of the World.
Queen of the World. Yeah, from Catford to the world. We've got it here in all of her glory. The IBF Super Bantamweight World title. Does it feel real yet?
Yeah, it's starting to, it's still the same person, but I've got a nice little belt for it. Congratulations.
What did you make of your performance on the night?
Like I said in my post-fight interview, it wasn't one of my best performances, but when I weigh everything up, like the long delay, I think I was in camp since December, and that was on and off, so it was up and down. But I watched it back, and I feel like it was better than it felt on the night. But I got the job done, and yeah, it's on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, you were fairly critical of yourself after that, as was your coach Shane McGuigan, who perfectionist, likes to get everything right. Not necessarily a bad thing, but good to hear that now you've gone back and had a look at it. You're more pleased with it. What did you make of the nitty and gritty with it? What were you pleased with? What weren't you pleased with?
I felt like I worked to the body quite early on as well, and that was nice. The jab working up, because she had a good jab. When we watched her, that was what we picked up on, and she managed to keep jabbing and coming out, and I kind of took that away from her as it went down to rounds 4 and 5, and then it got a little bit messy. She got cut, and then I saw a bit of blood and went through it, and then just kind of grinded it out towards the end. But yeah, overall, coming off of it as a world champion, I can't complain too much.
Okay, cool. Well, right, now we've got that out of the way. We've observed the pleasantries. Again, congratulations. As I said, I want to kind of go back, and we've never really done we've been around each other plenty in the gym.
This is our debut interview.
We've done interviews previously, but we've not done a sit down.
No,
we've not done a sit down where we kind of get to the crux of who you are, really, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we want to try and do today. So why don't you go back? I'm always fascinated, whether it's a female fighter or a male fighter, to understand why you would want to get punched in the head for a living. When did it occur to you that might be a good idea?
I was never going to be, a model, so that was off the list. But, I was a 9-year-old, and I was a little fat kid, and I was surrounded. I had 5 brothers and a sister, and I just wanted to be like my brother, and that was boxing. So I remember I used to beg him, please, take me along. And they used to call me Thumper Warrior. That was my nickname. It never stuck. So I followed him. He wouldn't let me, no Ellie. And I always say it was the Ribena and a Mars bar I used to come home with. And I was like, I want to go. And it was for that, really. But my cousin gave in the end. Jim, he took me down to Lynn Boxing Gym. And I was that 9-year-old. They used to hide me in the hot room. And I didn't stick it for too long. It must have been a year. And then I actually went back when I was 17. So there was a big gap in between where, boxing was the last thing on my mind. So,
what were your early memories of walking into, outside of obviously the Ribena and the chocolate bar?
My early memories, I remember my first spar. I sparred this boy from Hastings, West Hill. I remember my cousin driving home, and he got us a Lucozade, and he ran into my mum to tell the story. I've got it on video as well. I'm in this pink hoodie and these pink gloves and this Lonsdale headguard. And I made the boy sick. So yeah, it was not by looking. I punched him. I think I punched him in the throat or something. And yeah, I come out the spar, and I think he had 3 fights, won them all, and I was this little monster running at him. So that was my first early memory.
Were you always quite sporty as a child? As
a child, I was a little tomboy. I'd go out in the street and we'd play curbsies and stuff like that. And where I was surrounded with so many brothers, I used to always get a few digs. But when I stopped boxing, I turned completely opposite to what I am now. I wouldn't leave the house without, my hair done, makeup, and yeah, boxing, like I say, was the last thing on my mind. What
brought you back to it then? So you go in there, you make a boy sick, and then you can stick at it for a year. Well, I guess probably what took you away from that, like first and foremost, before coming back to it?
Women's boxing wasn't a thing, so for me it was, I was getting matched up in skills bouts and I was falling through, and I was like, what am I, doing this for? So I kind of pulled away, and in that time my mum did everything she could to get me back in that gym, and she would say, come on, Ellie. And like I say, we'd be at a little family party. She'd have one GAD and she'd be like, you could have been something. I'd be like, shut up, April, not today. So that was kind of my mum pushing. And, you know, as a kid, you're like, no, I don't want to. But my coach, Colin Waters, died. So during that time period, I knew at one point I would go back. But, you know, it was weird how it happened. And I just kind of packed that bag at 75 kilo and went back.
So you went back into the gym, and then did you go back into the gym just to kind of, I don't know, just as something to do? You missed it, or did you think, okay, I'm going to go back into the gym, I want to box, I want to go pro?
Yeah, so literally I told her I was getting ready to go out. It was the summer holidays, and Mick Conlan was in the background. It was 2014 Commonwealth Games, and he was boxing Ashfaq. And I remember something just kind of sparked when I saw it at the corner of my eye, and I watched him, and just the way he carried himself, his character, just the way he boxed, it kind of sparked something. And I saw that, and I remember I said to my mum, I'm going to go back to the boxing gym. She looked at me. Obviously, I was in probably a dress at the time, face full of makeup, and, you know, a little tubster at 75 kilo. And she was like, here we go. And yeah, I just took myself to the gym, and I grinded. In 6 weeks holiday, I lost 15 kilo, and yeah, I was ready for my first fight.
Yeah, I need to get myself back, get myself into the gym. That's probably a question for another time. Mick Conlan as well, somebody who became a stablemate of yours as well, and somebody that you know well. Of course, last time we saw him, unfortunately, coming up short against Luis Alberto Lopez, but a bit surreal. One day kind of looking at him on the TV and then being with him, with Adam Booth.
It was really surreal. I feel like my whole career has kind of been, I thought about something and kind of in my subconscious is kind of played out. And, you know, being lucky to train alongside someone like Mick Conlan and watching him spar, I feel like I learned a lot just watching him shadow box at times. I won't tell him too much, but yeah, no, it was surreal, and it was a real eye-opener to be around that.
Just mentioned his fight against Luis Alberto Lopez, unfortunately coming up short for the IBF title. What did you make of the fight and his performance? It
was a real, you know, firecracker from the first bell. You know, he says back, something clicked, and I just stood there, held my feet a little bit too often, and I thought that'd be the night he'd be crowned world champion. He's a great talent and a great person. So, you know, it was a hard fight. It was a grueling fight, and it was a nasty finish. And I just, you know, he come out safe, and he's ready to kick on, and hopefully third time lucky.
Hopefully so. I mean, a lot of time for Mick. He was in here, I think, 6 weeks or so beforehand. So, yeah, I think he's going to carry on. He's kind of announced that he's going to continue to box, so I wish him all the best. Just on that gym and kind of going and finding yourself with Adam Booth, how did that all come about?
Oh, it was strange. You know, I was on the GB setup. I was up there for quite a long time, and I kind of fell out of love with boxing. I hated it. I remember getting on the train sometimes on the way up to Sheffield, and I'd generally cry on the way up, and I'd look at the platform opposite and think I could jump on that, and I'd be back in, you know, London, St Pancras in no time. So I was up there, I wasn't performing, and I wasn't happy in myself. I would say I was probably very depressed as well. So I kind of made a call, and I said, look, I want to turn pro. At the time, I didn't have a clue about anything. The only pro was Katie Taylor, really. So I had a friend called Adam Martin. He's a pro coach, and I made a call to him because I was meant to be meeting a promoter, and I said, like, do you have a clue what women earn, blah, blah, blah? And he was like, like, I don't have a clue, but I know someone who will. And I thought nothing of it. You wouldn't, you know, Adam Booth, he's not going to want to, you know, talk with me. I ain't done much at all. And then I get a call off Adam Booth, and I'll go meet him, and it kind of fell into place very quickly. And yeah, now I was signed up within no time and debuting behind closed doors.
Just going back on GB, it's something like that I've spoken to people about in the past. It's like, I think from the outside looking in, everybody looks at GB and they go, oh, you know, you've got it all made, and you basically, if you're on GB, you're going to be a superstar, you're going to win a world title. But people would be surprised, and not yourself, because obviously you went through it, but how it's not quite like that for everybody. Just explain a little bit more about kind of the time that you had there and why it wasn't necessarily the right fit for you. Yeah,
like I say, you know, I had my first amateur fight at 17, and from then I went straight onto the youth England team, then won the senior elites, and then you're on GB. So I kind of knew it from the beginning, and I was with my coach, Sam Mullins, my amateur coach, I depended on his voice here and there, and kind of went up there, and my character just kind of never sat well, and my style, like, I feel like they got a great system, and I'm a home person, so as soon as I leave Catford I start to itch. I'm getting it now. So it was always, you know, being away from home. Stylistically, I'm not sure if it was well suited. I kind of forgot what made me different to other people, and I kind of fell into a trap that wasn't me. So it gives you experience, you know, like it's a wonderful thing. And if it suits you, you know, it can change your life. And it showed that time and time again. We've had a great success at the Olympics, but it's not for everyone, and it certainly wasn't for me.
You mentioned there about Catford, the Queen of Catford, of course, the Queen of the world at the minute, but also the Queen, the original Queen of Catford, should we say? I've never been to Catford. What's it like?
Don't do it. It's different. I think that's the best way to put it. It's all I've known, really. I'm not sure if it's got any better since I was a kid, but yeah, it hasn't. Yeah, it's definitely not got much better since I was a kid, but it makes me kind of humble to what I've seen and what I'm around, so I love it. It's home for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, home is home, isn't it?
Yeah, as soon as you shut the door, it's the same, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Just on Adam, just working with him, always kind of keen to pick the brains of fighters who have worked under him, kind of from the outside. Everyone seems like the Dark Lord and all of this, and obviously he's a very kind of a mental coach as well as a technical coach. Sure. What was it like working underneath him? It
was great, you know, like I remember my first session with him, it was during lockdown, and he made me do a whole pad session on the jab. And I came out thinking, I'm really bad at boxing. But it was kind of that kind of thought, do you know what? Yeah, I want to go back and I want to learn more. He's very diligent to what he teaches, and it's a lot about the movement when you're not punching. And it's all explosive, you see, like it's quite energy, like you're burning a lot of energy. And he kind of made me sometimes spar about throwing a shot and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I was grateful for the time I spent there. But you know, for what I wanted at my career, you know, I wanted time and a more hands-on approach, and obviously where Adam's at, it didn't weigh up too well.
And then that led you to McGuigan's gym, which at the time when you joined the gym, what gym, because it's difficult to keep up over the years.
It is ever-changing.
There's been 4 gyms since I've known Shane. Which gym was it at the time?
It's the one it's at now, Leighton.
Okay, right. Yeah. Okay, that's not too bad then.
No,
so you weren't forced to go to Kent?
No, I've heard the stories.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. That was a good 2.5 hour trek to go to the gym. For me, obviously, I have to go there once a month or whatever, once every other month. But yeah, sharing a kind of student digs with a bunch of rowdy fighters probably wouldn't have been...
Wasn't at the top of my list.
No, probably not. What was it like working? How did it come about, really? How did the discussion start?
So I was due to fight in fight camp, and I kind of pulled myself away, and I was training myself to prepare for the fight. And my brother's taking me sparring, and I didn't have anyone to work my corner for the fight, so it turned out that I had to pull out the fight sort of thing. So I called Eddie, had some discussions with him, and I said, look, I'm looking for a gym, and he suggested Shane and was very heavy on saying, I think that fits. I had a few chats with Shane, and then I went down for a trial, did a week. He said, do you want to come do another week? And yeah, as soon as I did the first session, I kind of knew. I think he needed a little bit more time. But yeah, no, it's a great gym to be part of. Yeah,
we'll come on to that. It's kind of it's always been a very busy gym, certainly in recent years. But what's Shane like to work with? What type of coach is he? He'll definitely be watching this as well. So no pressure. It's all right. We'll just change it.
Do you know, I think you can see it when you come in. He has time, so much time, and we're normally quite late on it. But he'll make sure whether you've had 4 fights or you're world champion, you all get the same amount of time and the same amount of effort. And that was the first thing I noticed when I walked in the gym. I think there was 9 fighters when I joined. And like I say, he would be there endless. And he breaks stuff down. And for someone that has so much patience when he's teaching, I don't think I've ever come across it. And it's showing you in your results. Like, he is the best trainer for me in the world. And I think a lot of people, especially in our gym, will agree with that. But he's so young and he has all the time in the world, but it's the way he teaches stuff that really, really, works, because it's not the same for everyone, and he understands that.
What's been kind of the biggest change in you as an athlete, as a fighter, and as a person since you've gone to the gym?
Yeah, do you know, a lot of change as an athlete, which merges into a person, because I think CBS is a example of this. He kind of drilled it into me. I used to think that everything had to be, every day is hard, and I was kind of just at one level, and he's like, Ellie, you got to understand your body. So they opened my eyes to that massively, and I went through a transition period when I first joined, and I think my first 2 performances under Shane weren't great, but my next 3 have showed that I have improved and it is working. But I went through that transition period, and it was hard at the time, but I was patient, and more so Shane was patient. So I think you only see better from now on.
Coming into women's boxing or coming into professional boxing at the time you have done. You mentioned there about, Katie Taylor at the time was kind of, obviously still is, the biggest name in female boxing and still one of the best fighters in the sport. But had you have been around 10, 15 years before, it's been a very different path. Exactly. It would have been pretty much Jane Couch, like the Ann Wolfe days, like Layla Ali, and it wasn't the growing sport that it is now. But that being said, you are in at the right time, and it's an exciting time for women's boxing.
Yeah, like we say, you see the stories and you hear them about, Jane Couch, what she went through to just get a license at times. She had to box on the road, and we're really reaping the rewards for the punishment she had at times. So you got to be grateful for her opening doors and Katie Taylor knocking them down. So I remember watching Katie Taylor's debut, and it was like, wow, like she's done it. She's opened, another door, and we're going to run through it, which we have. And female boxing is thriving. It's going from strength to strength. And I think in 5 years' time, you're going to see a whole new growth and a whole new female game to it. It will be amazing. Yeah,
and you're kind of right there at the forefront now. You're a world champion. There's a few others knocking about in British boxing as well, but certainly at the forefront of it. You do have another very talented female fighter in the gym. Sweet Caroline Dubois. Caroline's great, isn't she? And having her around the gym must be great for you. Because, boxing is still a very male-dominated sport, so it must be good to have another female in the gym.
It's amazing. And seeing her grow, like I say, not just in the ring, but out of the ring, she's a great character, and you lot are seeing that too. And she's a special talent, like we all say. And I think she's going to be, a front runner, and it's going to be very soon.
What do you like to do outside the gym?
It's going to be a long pause now. What do I like? I know it sounds very cliche, but it is just all strictly boxing. And I don't know any different, and I don't want any different. But it is just boxing. Every thought of every day is boxing.
Watching boxing, researching, reading,
just everything. Yeah, obviously my religion plays a part, so I have that to kind of keep me mellow in the madness of it all. Has
that been something that's always been a constant in your life, your religious background, religious family, or is it something that's more recent?
No, I'm not from religious background. On a Sunday it was we want to lay in on a Sunday, so it was kind of me. I always knew as a kid, I was always in my heart, I knew I always followed and I believed in the God. I'd say a prayer, but it wasn't until my auntie got terminally ill with cancer that she said to me, Ellie, like, I want to get baptized and I'd love for you to do it with me. And that was a special moment for me because it gave her strength that she needed for the next part of her life, knowing where she will be going. So yeah, I got baptized and I'm grateful. It was one of the best days of my life.
And with boxing being such a, at times, all the time it's difficult in various different ways, but a lot of the time it is lonely as well. It must give you such kind of comfort, I suppose, and security if you have your beliefs to fall back on as well.
Yeah, with every trial that I've had, every delay, I always knew, and I'd ask for a sign and I always got it. So I had the trust in, God's plan for me. And like I say, we go into that ring, it's just me and my opponent, but, for me, there's so much more. I'm walking and I'm speaking the word of Jesus at the same time. So yeah, I'm very grateful for that.
So Roberto Duran.
Yes.
So we spoke about him a little bit before we came on air, because obviously I've met him a couple of times. I know you haven't, but I'll put a good word for you one day, no problem.
You had to go there,
we'll get the Ellie Scotney Roberto Duran collab going. What is it about Roberto Duran that seems to infatuate you so much with him?
It's just everything. Like watching him is like poetry in motion for me, and it's just something. It's just his character as well, like you say, we was watching those little clips, and the way he fights almost merges into what he's like outside the ring in a different kind of complex. But he's a special fighter, he's a smart fighter, he's aggressive, he's a counter-aggressive fighter. And for me, that's what I like to watch. And yeah, I think he's everything.
What's your favourite Roberto Duran fight?
It's always going to be Sugar Ray, isn't it? Because obviously number one, not No Mas.
Not the second one. We forget.
Davey Moore's got a great shout as well. But I always say like his lightweight days was his best days.
Yeah, we're gonna make you feel jealous. When we were speaking with him in Saudi, we were talking, and it like he sort of has a lot of like legendary fighters who've been around, and you have one in the gym a lot of the time in Barry McGuigan, where they have like a presence and an aura about them. And I remember sort of sitting next to him, and I was sat next to Roberto Duran, and I was thinking, God, I almost don't want to look at him. And I ended up like, hello, and then he was like, as we sort of mentioned before we came on air, it's like, his personality is exactly what we'd want it to be. It's like that larger than life
they
kind
say
of.
don't meet your heroes, but it was never.
Yeah, I mean, and one day when you get to meet him, you'll be able to experience it. But yeah, he is a phenomenal fighter. Well, was a phenomenal fighter. I'm sure he probably still can throw hands a little bit.
After a few tequilas.
Yeah, after a few tequilas. Although there wasn't any the first time that we met. We met him in Saudi the first time. And I had to break it to him that he wasn't able to get any alcohol, which didn't go down well with Hands of Stone. He was like, "Oh, what, in the restaurant?" And I was like, no, I mean, like, in the country, you're not allowed. And he's like,
when's the next flight?
Yeah, basically looking to go home. Other than him, what other fighters?
Orlando Canizales.
Yeah, good fighter.
Yeah, I think, Matrix, he's feet. Obviously, we all talk about Loma, but when you throw it back to a different generation, he's one of the best to ever do it. So, yeah, for me, them too.
Okay. What about modern, like, contemporary fighters? Or you want to be like an old school?
I think I was born in the wrong generation. Modern. Oh.
Obviously, aside from all of your McGuigan's gym colleagues, obviously they're your
CBS
favourites.
is always the front of it. Who's your modern?
Well, James Toney's kind of modern enough. Like, he still boxed in the 2000s. But like,
era,
as in somebody fights, so he could probably fight now. I like Inoue.
Oh, yeah, he's a monster.
Yeah, I like Inoue. I like Usyk.
I like Usyk more so for his character and what he represents, and Loma. So, yeah, I think they probably got my vote.
Who's the best that you've seen live?
Someone threw this question at me. I've not got an answer to that. Maybe
you
I
must
don't
have.
go to
You must have seen some good fighters live.
I don't think I have, I'm going to have to go to more shows.
Yeah, you should. I think somebody asked me the other day. I think my top three was Inoue.
He's showing off now, isn't he?
I saw Inoue on a Josh Taylor undercard, so I think it's probably the only time that you see.
On Josh Taylor's undercard?
I mean, he was co-main, but, undercard
I was
technically.
co-main last weekend. It don't work the same.
But yeah, he boxed Manny Rodriguez on the Taylor Baranchik undercard.
I didn't know he was out of the undercard.
Yeah.
So he's your top out of three?
I think so, yeah. I think he'd be up there. I've only seen Canelo live once, and when I watched Canelo, he boxed Kovalev at light heavyweight, and it wasn't his best performance. He won by a stoppage, but at least for me anyway, he's got no business being a light heavyweight. I think we saw that in the Bivol fight. And then there's like Fury. Fury could be in the conversation. I've seen Fury in some really big moments. Like I was at the first Wilder fight when he picked himself off
you was
the
at the
floor.
first one?
Yeah. So like remembering that'll always like
always
stay
stick
with
in
me.
the memory.
I remember him hitting the deck and typing out a tweet. Tyson Fury's been knocked out.
And as you got up,
and as I went to click send, he was up and doing like the little run to the side. So he's up there, and then Usyk, Canelo, Inoue, yeah. So I've been fortunate, really. I've seen some good ones.
A lot more fortunate than me, but
now you've got over the hump, so to speak, and you're the IBF Super Bantamweight champion. What's the plan now? Do you feel like? Same question I had for your stablemate Chris Billum-Smith. Is it now? Oh, I've done that, or is it? Okay, that's out of the way. Now I want to do this. I want to do that. How are you feeling about things now?
Yeah, exactly how you said it. You've got your foot on the road now, and now it's time to start running, really. So. The big goal for me is undisputed. So next, obviously, unifications, and by the end of the year, that's the aim. And
it seems to be something like that. The undisputed path and the path to undisputed seems to be something that's a little bit simpler in female boxing. It seems to happen so much more than it does in the men's code.
Because obviously, like we say, the lack of the depth, and we have to fight everyone to kind of get noticed and spoken of in a slot on the show and a recognisable one. So for us, obviously, the depth makes it a lot more easier, and we're willing to take those fights to get recognition. Yeah,
I mean, it's sort of like a nice bit of welcome relief, really. But I mean, at the minute, we're kind of anyone kind of follows my work. I'm not the biggest fan of heavyweight boxing in general.
It's very quiet at the minute, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, it hasn't been actually. It hasn't been quiet. It's been very, very loud. There just was not any fights.
But yeah.
So that's always
all bark, no bite.
Yeah, exactly. So when you see Katie Taylor versus Chantel Cameron, or the big fights we've had in the last 12 months, like Baumgardner versus Mayer, which is on the same card. Marshall Shields. It really does put the men's code to shame. No, it's a good period for boxing, but it is frustrating, isn't it? Because we constantly getting teased with heavyweight drama and it kind of, for me anyway, it's it's not my favourite division in the sport
to watch. Yeah,
but
It's the money division.
Yeah, 99% of people who watch boxing and tune in for boxing, they want the heavyweight
knockouts.
boxing fight. Fury versus Usyk, who wins?
I think Fury's too big. I just think everything, every strength Usyk's got is going to be counterized, and he's too big. He's too big. I like Usyk a lot, but I think Fury's too big.
Okay, interesting. I'm not going to bet you on that one, but I lean towards Usyk. Right, before we wrap things up, we've got a few other little fun bits and pieces to get through. What's the plan now? I'm going to give you a real broad window here. So the next 10 years, what's the plan, Ellie?
Oh, I'll be retired in 10 years for sure. I want to be out by the time I'm 31, and like I say, undisputed's the goal, and what comes with that's, will come with it. So
why do you want to be out by 31? Any particular reason?
Just like, I feel like it's a good age, I want to start a family, and I don't want to be in and out. Like, I admire people that can do that, but for me, like I say, it makes you very selfish, boxing, and I give 110%, and I just know that it would kind of weigh up differently.
Okay, what's the dream outside of becoming undisputed? Any bucket list things to tick off?
Yes, obviously, I want to go New York. That's on the bucket list. Madison Square Garden. So that will be it. Hopefully in the super fight. And I've always said it's deeper for me. It's not just about me. I want to secure my mum. So getting her a house is the first thing that I'll be doing when I get the opportunity.
What's the dream opponent?
Dream opponent. I haven't got one yet. But I think with time, that will fall into place.
Yeah, once you've got all the belts, you're undisputed at super bantam. Somebody at featherweight, maybe.
Yes, Serrano. That is a super fight.
Yeah,
so.
she's kind of like evergreen as well, isn't she? She'll be around forever.
I think
she feels like it, doesn't it?
She just seems like she's not aging.
Yeah.
Even she still looks. I think she looks just as young as me. 17, that is.
Okay, well, Ellie, look, it's a real pleasure to catch up, and congratulations again on becoming world champion. Hopefully, the first of many as you continue on your quest to become undisputed champion. Thanks very much for stopping by here today at ID Towers. And joining us here for an episode of One on One. So thanks very much.
You're a legend. Thank you.
And we'll catch up soon.
There's definitely mutual respect there. And listen, I went into his change room after the loss to Lara. He was there with his family, very upset, and I went over to him, shook his hand. So I'm talking about, I'm going to fight Lara next. If I do, you've got my hand here, Lee, and I'd be honoured to give you a fight and share a room with you. So I've been in that position when I'd been knocked out, beat for my first time, going into that rematch. Jesus, the amount of demons that we're facing. Oh shit, if you get beat, what if you lost it? What if you haven't got that punch resistance no more? What if he's fucking knocked out here?